So my wife and I backpack and hike a lot. The more the remote place, the better. In 2015, my wife and I were in the Bitterroot National Wilderness in Montana. We had been out for 2 weeks on a 100-mile route finding trail. We kind of connected together on a few topo maps to make a loop. We had only seen one other person, Tom. We met him on our second day in and his last day out. He told us he hadn't seen or ran into anyone out there. So as far as we all knew, we were going to be alone out there. He told us hunting season was weeks away, but there might be scouts out, to be very careful with our food, where we eat, and our scent, because it's bear country, and he had seen a few and even one with cubs. He also mentioned that he had heard cougar in the distance, but that we should be okay as long as we stick together. We camped together that night, and the next morning we thanked him for his company, all of the info, and parted ways. For 2 weeks we hiked, saw some cool vistas, swam, saw and heard wildlife, and all the stuff you'd expect to see in the back country. We didn't really think about Tom again after a few days out, and hadn't seen anyone. We took the thought of being alone for granted and let our guard down. As far as other people were concerned, we were all alone out there. We're in our last few days out, winding the trip down, just taking it all in. We find a nice flat tent site, make a fire, some dinner, hang our food bag and walk back to our tent and pass out for a good night's sleep. The next morning, as backpackers do, we break camp as early as possible, get some breakfast and coffee into us. But before we leave camp, I needed to use the bathroom. So I venture away from the tent site to find a suitable spot. As I'm walking around to find a place to dig my cat hole, I come up on a lumped up thing looking like a bush. I was not expecting to run into anyone out here, as we had only seen one other person early on, and no one else since. I wasn't paying attention, as I'm looking for somewhere to go to the bathroom and not looking out for people. These two are in a camo blind type of wrap. I didn't realize that they were there, and they didn't hear or realize that I walked up on them till the last damn minute, when I was right on top of them, tripping over one of their legs. They scared the shit out of me, and I scared the shit out of them. When I hit the guy's leg, I startled him. He kind of jumped up, knocking their blinds off. The guy that was on his knees has a dick in hand, apparently blowing the other guy that is up against the tree. Now the guy on his knees is looking at me dead in the eye with a look of, what the fuck? Who are you? Oh fuck, I'm caught. My sight is going back and forth from Hunter, Dick, Hunter, Dick, Hunter. The guy standing yells at me, "What the fuck you doing, man?" They scramble, one trying to stand up, the other pulling his pants up. All the while, both are fighting the fucking blind that's wrapped in between them. I'm in disbelief of what I just came up on. Just stood there for what felt like forever. I stumbled over my words to find an apology and blurred out, "Nothing, guys. Sorry. Man, have fun." And I turned back to my camp in almost a dead run. They yelled out to me to stop, but I didn't. Fucking longest 200-yard sprint ever. When I finally got back to camp, my wife looked at me and instantly knew something had happened, and asked what was up. I told her to grab her stuff, and we hurried out of there without a word. About half an hour to an hour later of sprint hiking, we had to stop. I still hadn't gone to the bathroom, and I still needed to. So we took a spur trail to break, snack, and tell her what happened. She told me that she was worried and that I had scared her. She was scared the whole time, thinking I had been chased by a bear or cougar or something, and it was after us. I told her nothing like that it was just two hunters hiding out blowing each other. We talked a bit about it. She asked if I thought they'd look for us. I told her I didn't think so, since they probably left after being caught. No, let's wait them out just in case they are on the trailhead waiting. Like I said, we've been out for about 2 weeks now, and we've been making our way back, and are less than a day's hike from the trailhead at this point. So they must have gone out after being caught, right? After a while of talking it over, we kind of just chuckled it off and hiked onto the creek where we were going to camp for the night. We made camp off trail in a nice outcrop with no incident. Next morning we wake up, break camp, do our morning routine, and hike out of the trailhead. With that said, we're not really thinking of the two hunters at all anymore. Well, as we get to the trailhead, we meet two ladies that have been prepping breakfast and now cleaning up. As we were walking to the parking lot, they chat with us. You know, the usual backcountry questions of how long we've been out, how many miles we did, if we saw any bears, what we ate. And then almost at the same time, one lady offered up some of their leftover food as the other gal starts yelling, "Hey hubby, these two have been hiking up on the same trail you and so were just out on yesterday, but they were out for 2 weeks. Bring them some of that real food and juice." Hubby pokes his head out of the camper to say hi. Lo and behold, it's the fucking hunter that was against the tree. Smile faded as quick as his face turned white to an angry look when he realized who he was looking at. Then the buddy, the giver, turns the damn corner from the trailer to see me standing there. I feel the blood just drain from my body. This guy's face turns from happy-go-lucky to disbelief, fear at the same time. The wife then asked if we had happened on their husbands out there as they were scouting out for game yesterday. As I'm stumbling my words, they're darting their looks from me to themselves. Before I can say anything, my wife is answering, "Yes, we'd love some real food. No, we hadn't seen anyone. You guys are the first in 2 weeks." The wife turns to the hunters and says, "You guys must have had a real good hiding spot." Cheese and fucking rice. I think both of the hunters and me had a mini heart attack. One of the guys just gives me a nod. My wife and I graciously take their pancakes and sausage of all goddamn things. I can see both hunters quietly talking to each other, staring over at me every once in a while. I'm doing my best to avoid the situation by packing up the car. While my wife is thanking the hunter's wife for the food, both hunters with sidearms on their hips come up to me with a beer. The one that was on the tree kind of pushed it into my chest and asked if I'd seen anything out there. My heart fucking stopped. I again stumbled over my words. "Oh, other than, some wild animals? Nothing worth writing home about." "Yeah, we didn't see much either, but we are really surprised you didn't hear us last night walk through your camp." Be careful. You never know what can happen out here in the middle of the woods. After a few seconds, the other one just smirks. They turn to leave with a "have a safe trip home" speech. I wasn't sure what was going to happen in that moment, so I was psyching myself up for a fight. I was kind of shaken up as we were leaving the trailhead. My wife asked if I was okay, and if those were the guys I saw. My reply was, "Yeah, what the fuck do you think, babe?" And then asked what they said to me. I told her I thought I was going to have to fight them, but they just gave me a beer to buy my silence. I didn't mention the passive-aggressive threat then, made about walking through our camp. So let's not meet again, Montana hunters. This happened last year, but it was not until this year that things became truly disturbing. I used to live in a big house, a Queenslander as it is known for its design. It was an old wooden home with 2 levels, propped up by a separate dwelling underneath it. I lived with my girlfriend upstairs. It was just us for the majority. We did have one roommate for a bit, but she left. We rented and our real estate agents told us there may be possums on the roof, which wasn't uncommon. And we did hear them every now and again, usually fighting and screeching like no tomorrow. Sometimes we heard them scurry around, which was not that unusual. It's only when night came around did sounds become more unconventional. One thing possums do not do is scratch or knock. They have rather soft feet and are not known to scratch or make any sort of noise like that. but every few nights we would hear scratch and knocking above our heads in bed, and at the same time it was very annoying. Then some nights it was a little bit stranger. It was on the roof itself rather than the walls, and it was a distinct sound of walking, but not the plodding of 4 feet, the plodding of 2. It sounded like a slow walk from one end of the roof to the other, like a small person walking around. There was weight to it that sounded too human to be an animal. Possums are small and nimble and rather hard to be heard unless they cause a ruckus. We largely ignored it because none of us were game to actually check the roof through the manhole. I often made jokes about there being gnomes on the roof, so none of us took it too seriously. It wasn't until we began moving out that we noticed something about the manhole that was not the same as it had ever been. There were a lot of hand and footprints all around it. We used to sleep in that room and would stare at the roof a lot, but never did we ever see any marks of any kind. I'm still not sure who or what exactly was on the roof, but I never want to ever find out. So this is my first ever post, and I'm not a great writer, so bear with me. I come from a very small town in the Scottish Highlands, where there is little crime, or at least little serious crime, so this creeped me out a lot. I was with my friend Lynn, and we were 13 at the time, hanging around our high street at night. A man came out of the insurance office across from us and stared over. He went back in, but kept looking over at us. There was a white car parked outside the office that was his. We were just thinking he was a weirdo. Eventually, he came over to us and asked if we would use the phone box. This was in 1999. Next to us and make a phone call for him, and he would give us €5. I didn't want to do it because he was really creeping me out, because up close he had really feline features. His face kind of looked like a mask, if that makes sense. Just strange. So Lynn said she would do, and off we went into the phone box with the guy. He gave the phone number and said to ask for Laura, and if her mother answered, to say it was Jennifer, and not to mention he was there. Then when Laura came onto the phone, to hand it over to him, and then leave. Okay, so for me now, I was totally aware that something was really off, and had massive anxiety. Lynn phoned and a woman answered, and said she wasn't in, and asked who was calling. Lynn said it was Jennifer, and the person ended the call. The guy was asking if the woman sounded older like a mother. Lynn replied with yes. He thanked her, gave us money, and told us not to tell a single person. Obviously at the time we were very young, and thinking this €5 would be great, and all for phoning someone for another person. We had thought this very strange, and we went to the police to report it. They took a statement and asked questions. We never heard anything else about it. Fast forward a year, and I'm scanning through the local newspaper and see a picture of the guy. He had been jailed for using his white car as a pretend taxi cab, trying to pick up young girls who were out alone. And one time he had succeeded in picking a girl up and sexually assaulting her. She was only 14. He had been harassing her for months after it and had gotten obsessed. So basically we had called this girl for him without realizing what we were actually doing. I'm so glad she didn't come to the phone, and we were very quickly realized how stupid we had been and how important stranger danger truly is. So creepy mass-faced stalker, let's not meet again. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to join the Sinful Society. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave your comment and thoughts in the comment section below. If you guys have any topic or theme ideas for upcoming videos, make sure to leave that in the comment section below as well. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Until we meet again in the next video, stay sinful.